Hello, and welcome to another episode of The End of the Search. This one I call it Peace is Not a State. What I mean by that is, oftenly when people talk about they want to experience peace, or they want to be at peace or so, they're not realizing that peace is already what you are. In other words, usually the mind may be filled with thoughts and there's feelings, sensations, and they're so identified with the content of the mind that they experience lack of peace. But in reality, they're not experiencing lack of peace because once again, you are the background. You are the space in which everything seems to appear and disappear. Therefore, you are experiencing peace right now in spite of what the thoughts may be taking place in the mind or the feelings and the sensations. So when there's so much identification with the content of the mind because you're forgetting the fact that you are, now you're saying, I want to be at peace, I need to be at peace. But all that is happening is that you're overlooking what is. Right now, right this moment, while you're listening to these words, while seeing seems to be happening in your experience, while sensing seems to be taking place, you are resting in that in which all the feelings, the sensations, the thoughts, the sensing seems to manifest. You see? Now, when we are at war with what is, we experience the seeming absence of peace. But that war is just simply the mind, the conceptual mind, analyzing and translating the experience, judging the experience, rather than simply being. The invitation in these videos are not to avoid what is being, what you're thinking, what you're feeling, it's not an avoidance. It's simply a passive looking. Right now, notice that you are. This is the core message. You simply are. The thing is that I am not talking to you as the person. I'm not telling you the person that you simply are. I am pointing to what already is prior the thought I am a person, prior the feelings or sensations that may seem to arise, prior anything that can be conceptually understood. You simply are. This is it. This is where this is pointing to. And this is what you are, or what we're pointing to on a regular basis, which never changes. Notice that the feelings do change, the thoughts do change, the experiences do change, but the fact that you are never does. And this is where this is what we're reminding. This is the reminder all the time. Right now, what needs to be different in order for you to be at peace? I know you see how the mind is going to say, well, this thought should not be there. I should be feeling in a particular way. Things will be in a particular way. But you see, these are evaluations, that these are thoughts that are overlooking what is. And right now you are, and that isness remains no matter what movements or changes seem to be taking place in your experience. This is why this is so obvious and yet it's being overlooked. It's being overlooked because once again we are trying to have a conceptual, an idea of how I should feel, how things should go, how things should be. And yet feeling happens, being happens, things are as they are. You see? So all we're looking is the conditioning, the mind conditioning, the thoughts that appear, so we can look right through them and remember that I am. This is all there is to it. I am. You are. Life is. And life is not peaceful or non-peaceful. Life simply is. When there's no identification with the content of the mind, then what you see, what remains, is the ever-presence, which is what you are. This is what the videos are pointing all the time. And when you may ask, but how do I function in life, or how do I do things? Again, we're missing the mark here. Life is happening anyway. How do you breathe? Tell me, how do you breathe? What is the mechanism that you use specifically to control breathing? How do you see? Tell me exactly how do you function the mechanism on whatever, so you can turn this knob and then you can make this particular muscle or particular membrane or particular cells or whatever. Tell me, how do you do all that stuff in order for you to see? You see? Seeing happens, whether you like it or not. Hearing happens, whether you like it or not. The problem is that seeing happens and the mind begins to judge the scene, and that's when you think that you're not at peace. Hearing happens, but the mind judges this sound, and that's why you're not at peace. Oh, the neighbors are too loud. No. Noise is happening, the mind is judging it, and I'm reacting to that, and then I say I am not at peace. You see? Right now I see how the sun is coming up, and you can see it right in front, you know, and I could see the thoughts going, oh man, I didn't want the sun to come right now because, you know, it's just, you know, for the video or stuff. Well, that's just what's happening. It's just a happening. Means absolutely nothing. It doesn't take away my peace, because the peace is the background always before the sun started showing right in my face, while the sun is showing right in my face. And if a cloud covers it up, which I doubt it, then after that, you see, the background is what remains, and you are that, and that is the peace this is pointing to. You see? I understand how difficult this may be when there's a lot of feelings and sensations that may be uncomfortable, and when the mind could be identified with a lot of thoughts because, you know, they keep floating. I can understand that. I am not negating anything. Once again, this is not about negation, but this is about looking right through what happens. Right now, thoughts happens, sensations happens, feelings happens, experiences seems to happen, but what I am remains. That is the peace that we're pointing to. You see, that's why it's not a state, because if it was a state, the peace would go with the feelings, the peace would go with the sensations, it would go with it would be moving as well with everything that seems to be happening, and yet that remains. So we can use another word for peace. We can say space. We can say silence. You see, the screen doesn't say, I'm losing my peace because this movie is too much action. No, the screen remains. The movie changes, but the screen remains. Well, we are that screen. Right now, you cannot not be that screen, and we can put it to the test. We'll do it in every single video right now. If you don't believe the content of the mind, if you don't believe any thoughts that said these thoughts should not be here, these sounds should not be taking place, these things shouldn't be like it is, things should not be as they should. If you take all these thoughts out of the way, you can see them, but you don't have to engage with them, then what remains? Well, what remains is what is. You can call it peace. You can call it space. Better yet, call it nothing. And then life, you see, life is unfolding. But once again, the simplicity of this is overshadowed because there's a tendency of thinking that I'm talking to you, the person. There's no person to person. It's only the I am. That's it. It just so happens that in this seeming appearance, there seems to be like a person that seems to be talking to a camera, and the message seems to be directed to another person on whatever other end that seems to be watching the video. And again, this is not person to person. I'm just pointing to what is right now. Can you say that you are not? Literally, right now. Can you say I am not? And the answer is you cannot say I am not, because you are. The problem is you think you are someone, something. And that someone or something is a thought that is evaluating the feelings, the sensations, or whatever, the seeming present experience, and that it label it as something. But if you don't label it nothing, then what remains? What remains? What is? Well, this is what it is. This is what we're pointing to. And if you think this is esoteric or something, notice that the thoughts you're having right now, they're going to change. The feelings and sensations you're having right now, they're going to change. But the you in which all of those feelings and sensations appear and disappear don't. Well, I'm pointing to that. You see? I'm pointing to that which never changes. And this is, again, this is a fact. This is not esoteric. This is not mumbo jumbo, metaphysical talk. No, this is just what is. Right now, notice that the thoughts you were having a minute ago or an hour ago or yesterday, they're not here right now. And if they come up again, that's fine. But for a moment, they were not there. And yet you, which is in the space in which they appear, they remain. You see? Feelings, sensations you might have had a minute ago or something, or a moment ago, or yesterday or whatever. Notice how they change. Some of them, they're gone. They may come back again. And the mind goes again with interpreting. What does it mean? Because it's holding on to a sense of identity, to this seeming me. But there's no me. All that there is what is. And we're pointing to that. Right now you are being, and it's overlooked by all the mind interpretation, judgment, and of what is. What does it mean? What these words he's saying? He's saying this. He's telling me that. Point to that. No, you see, I'm pointing to the fact that you are. That is the peace that never changes. In spite of the sensations, in spite of the movement, in spite of the thoughts, it is. And the same way that life is breathing you, and you're not in charge of the mechanism of breathing, and you're not in charge of the mechanism of the heart pumping and the blood flowing, and you're not in charge of the mechanism of seeing, you're not in charge of any of that. Life is also in charge of every single move that you seem to be making. That's why there's no need to concern about what to do or not to do. I don't know. All I know is that right now there's a video that seems to be happening. And whatever is going to happen throughout the day is a mystery. It seemed as though there's a couple of things that I'll be doing today, but again, I don't know until they are being done. They're just possibilities, thoughts. Yet they seems to appear in I am, and the I am never changes. The I am simply is. This is the peace that surpasses all understanding, because there's no identification with the personal sense of self. And this is what these videos are pointing to. And you need to do the investigation yourself to see that this is true. This is not something I'm making up. What is the next thought you're going to have? If you do not know what is the next thought you're going to have, how can you say you're in charge of your thoughts? And if you do not know what is the next thought you're going to have, or the next idea you're going to have, then how do you know what is the next movement you're going to make? You see? Thought appears first, and the mind immediately takes ownership. I thought of that. No, I didn't think of that. The thought appeared. Happened first. From whatever. And then I find myself acting accordingly. You see? But we all take, we want to take ownership of that. Well, this idea of wanting to take credit for that is what leads to guilt. Yeah, because on one end you may say, oh, I feel wonderful, I made this business work, I did that. Yeah, but when you do something that you may not be proud of, then you feel guilty about it. But if you know that you are, then whatever movement seems to be happening on the surface does not distract you from the peace that you are, which is what these videos are pointing to. We're pointing to the peace that you are, not that peace that you're going to get or the peace that you'll experience as some kind of a state. No, 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 no. You are that peace right now. Yes, it may seem like your mind is going through a tsunami, it may seem like there's a lot of feelings and sensations and there's a lot of movement, but the fact is all that seems to be happening in what you are. We're pointing to what you are. That is the peace that surpasses all understanding, that never changes, that is eternal, and this is what these videos are about. They're not about the movement that seems to be taking place. It's not about changing or pursuing or becoming. It's about noticing what have always been, it is and will always be, in spite of the movement that may be taking place in the seeming appearances, either seeming outside or seeming inside. You simply are. You are being right now. This is it. This is it. And now see how life unfolds. You are life, by the way, but it's a way of saying. Just notice how the appearance unfolds. All a mystery. And now you can live comfortably and happily within that mystery. And when you can rest in that beingness, then you experience the eternal peace that you are. Because it's not a personal experience, it's simply what is. You're at peace even when there's feelings and sensations, even when some of those feelings and sensations may not be comfortable, but you're at peace. You're at peace no matter what thought seems to be appearing. You're at peace. Because you are not at peace, you are that peace. That's the point. You are at peace no matter what. And that's why, again, this is not a state. It is the recognition of the fact that I am. And you are. You are that. That in which everything seems to appear and disappear, like the fourth book of the series. I am. You are. Love is. And that's all there is. Well, this is the inspiration that came through. I hope it served. And as always, may peace permeate the mind so that love can be extended.